Welcome, Irish fans, to this week's edition of the Jack Swarbrick Show. This week we are coming to you from the Fall Monogram Jacket Ceremony at Club Namoli, where athletes and managers who have earned athletic monograms for the first time receive their jackets. Joining us this week is the Executive Director of the Notre Dame Monogram Club, Brant Ust. Former Notre Dame baseball player and athletic department administrator, now the Director of Athletics at the University of Buffalo, Alan Greene, and first-time Monogram jacket recipient, sophomore hockey forward Mike O'Leary. First, to get things started, here is your host, joining me, Notre Dame Vice President and Director of Athletics, Jack Swarbrick, an honorary Monogram jacket recipient himself.
Ah, yes.
This is something that I know you had a lot to do with, because in the old days it was a big achievement, but the athletes went down to the equipment room and they kind of tossed them the jackets, and you felt it needed more than that.
I did. I thought it, knowing how hard the student athletes work, and what this means to them and what it represents, I challenged the staff. I said, let's try and make this more of a celebration. And it has, from that small kernel of an idea, some very talented staff members have turned this into sort of a major event that has a little bit of a gala feel to it now. I think I'm under.
I think we're all underdressed. It absolutely does. There's a buzz about the room. There are friends, there are parents, there are family members. Folks have actually come in from around the country to watch their son, daughter, friend, acquaintance get their Monogram jacket.
It's one of my favorite parts of it. The first year that we did it up here, there were a few parents. Second year, a little more. And now we're going to start being constrained by this space pretty soon, and I love that. I love that you see brothers and sisters and parents, because they've all played a role in winning that letter. They all, that brother or sister was in the back of the car all those years when you were going around to those travel team events. Mom and dad gave their time and resources. And so it's great to turn it into a celebration. And I'm just so honored by the people who drive from New York or New Jersey or Texas to come to this event.
And you talk about the great job that the staff has done in terms of making this a great event. It's not just the presentation of the jackets. That's a big deal in itself. But you bring in inspirational people to speak, and you have a particularly good one who you'll be talking to a little later in the show to address the athletes tonight.
That's been my favorite part of this, I think. We wanted a featured speaker, and of course you're going to look to somebody who's won the Monogram, and over the years now we've had these remarkably accomplished people who have Notre Dame grads who won their Monogram, who have gone on to do incredibly powerful things in various businesses. Today we have an emerging leader in college athletics, a Notre Dame grad who I'm quite certain, as you look down the road a few years, will be one of the leading athletic directors in this country.
And of course it is about the student athletes, so the event wouldn't be complete if you didn't have a student athlete talk as well. So a representative is selected from the group each year to kind of talk about what it means.
Yes, and I've loved the variety in that. You worry that there might be a sameness in their reflection and their approach. That hasn't been the case at all. And they put a lot of time in. Obviously, they're so bright and talented, but almost without exception, the people we've picked each year, it's been the most moving part of the evening to have that self-reflection.
And, of course, there should be a buzz on this campus anyway, because you've got some seasons starting and you've got one that's rolling along, the football season, that's playing the biggest game of the year that the entire country will be watching in Miami this weekend.
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited. There's several things that I love about it. One is I think college football is better when Notre Dame and Miami are at this level.
And I honestly don't think you're alone. And I've heard a lot of folks, even who may not be that fond of Notre Dame, who agree when Notre Dame is good, it's good for football.
Yeah, the major brands in the sport, the sport's better when they're performing well. And so to have this game have that sort of meaning and the significance is great. The other reason I love it is, and I was reminded of it with the video that your colleagues at FIM put together, that replayed Brian's speech after the Georgia game, where he told the team, you will win games like this in the future. You've prepared yourself. You've made all the right decisions. We didn't get it done tonight, but you've invested everything you needed to make sure you win these games in the future. And in subsequent weeks, that's exactly what's happened. And so now you find yourself with another one of these big tests on the road in what will be an electric atmosphere. And this team couldn't be more prepared. Whatever happens, happens, but this team has made all the right decisions, all the right choices. It's been reflected in the quality of their play, and I couldn't be more pleased with where they are.
And certainly behind our cameras right now, there's a basketball arena where two of the top-ranked teams in the country will begin their seasons coming up in the next week or so. The women will actually be here on Saturday, and the men have decided to open with an easy game, the dedication game with a new building that DePaul has in downtown Chicago.
Yeah, as I was walking over to this evening, I walked through Purcell, which is right on the other side of our cameras here. You can see the court from where we're sitting. And Rex Pfluger was in there hoisting up another 1,000 shots or whatever he was going to put up today. And, you know, it's fun to have that activity in the building every day. It's one of the things I love about basketball season. There's always somebody in there working on their game or down in the pit. And it shows in where these two teams are right now. So highly regarded nationally. A pipeline of talent that sort of ensures the quality of the program, and off to great starts, playing really well. The guys have given themselves an unusual test right off the bat, first non-exhibition game to play a very good team, opening a new building. It'll be a great challenge for them, but I think they're up to it. And the women, of course, annually give themselves the toughest test in the country. They sign up for all of the best opponents you can, and that's a team that's really going to develop as the year goes on. They're integrating a new point guard. They're integrating some new post players. But as I've watched them in practice and the first exhibition games, you can see it coming together, and they're going to have another great year.
And, of course, they begin the season with a full member of the Naismith Hall of Fame as their head coach. That's just an unbelievable honor.
It is so richly deserved. I haven't been able to get her to commit to wear the orange jacket on the sidelines yet.
I think
during
it clashes with her pumps, actually.
Well, that's the problem. It doesn't work from a fashion perspective, but she's too humble anyway. But no, that's great. I'm excited that this year, knock on wood, our men's coach will become the all-time winningest coach at Notre Dame in men's basketball.
Well, as long as we give him security great. And Digger doesn't do anything to prevent that from happening. I'm just kidding.
I've taken out a big insurance policy on Mike because I recognize the risk.
And, of course, you have Mike O'Leary from the hockey team on here, and certainly among the diehards. Hockey doesn't always get quite as much publicity as the basketballs or the football, but they're ranked in the top 10 and, again, playing very, very well, and they're good year in and year out.
Oh, it's such a solid program that Jeff has built in such a tough environment to do it in relative to the challenges to compete nationally in hockey with age discrepancies on teams. We'll play teams that have 25, 26-year-olds. And he just built a great program. We're so excited this year because we're in the Big Ten for hockey. That's the right place for us to be.
It's a great fit.
Yeah. I mean, no disrespect for any of the teams we've played in the past couple of years, but Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Ohio State, those resonate with our fans. They're logical, geographic rivals. And so the excitement is great, and I love that we got off to such a good start by sweeping the Buckeyes on the first weekend. It was really important to get off to a good start in conference play.
Okay, well, let's get this show off to a good start. You have three great guests, so I will vacate this chair and let you get underway.
Yeah, well, I should say before you depart that we're opening without the legendary Sam Bush.
Yes, that's true.
Because the event tonight pushed our taping up. And so Sam's practicing. Doing his thing out on the practice field, and couldn't quite get here in time. So I didn't want his fan club to think we had jettisoned Sam here.
Well, it gives him more time to write a song or something.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be back in a minute.
Philly is sold out tonight.
The anticipation is building.
We're set for the opening tip, and we are underway here in Notre Dame.
Tip, it goes to Young. Her jumper goes.
Jackie Young is going to be a star.
One word that sums up this Notre Dame team pretty well, and that is dominant.
Marina Mabry fires a three.
Mabry with a triple.
Catherine Westfeld up over the rim and in.
That's Catherine Westfeld.
Enrique Ogunbowale. Enrique fires up the three. Got it. Outstanding.
If you're
Our first guest is a baseball monogram winner and 2001 graduate of the Mendoza College of Business, Brant Ust. On the baseball field, Ust became one of the most decorated players in Notre Dame history, earning Big East Rookie of the Year honors in 1997 and Big East Player of the Year honors in 1998. He also earned third-team All-America recognition from 3 organizations and was the team's Monogram Club MVP in 1999. After playing 9 years of minor league baseball, Ust fulfilled a number of roles with USA Baseball before returning to the university as the executive director of the Notre Dame Monogram Club in March of 2014. There is no better person to begin our fall monogram jacket ceremony show than Brant Ust.
Thanks, Jack. Brant, welcome. It's great to have you back on the show.
Great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
I think this is maybe like 3 years in a row now we've had you on as you're almost a co-host.
I enjoy it. It's great to chat and catch up.
Well, we've as indicated, we've had you on a few times, but never in this setting. So let's talk a little bit about why we're here this evening and the setup behind us and what's going to happen here.
Tonight's an exciting night. It's really our baptism, for lack of a better term, for the Monogram Club, where we welcome in first-time Monogram recipients. In this iteration in the fall, it's from the previous spring and winter sports, and it's an opportunity for us to celebrate the accomplishment. Each path towards earning a monogram has a different story, and it's great to have the student athletes here, the team support staff, coaches, administrators in attendance, along with family, to celebrate that accomplishment.
Now, this is quite a production. This is a big deal. It didn't always used to be this way. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of passing the letters out, awarding the letters.
Yes, this is probably approaching our 9th year in this format of presentation. I sound like an old man, but back in my day, it was a very unceremonious activity of receiving your jacket at the equipment room window. You were so excited to receive it, whether it fit or didn't. You just wanted it and wanted to throw it on. So it had its own special privilege or opportunity then. But we've decided, look, as a Monogram Club, as an athletics department, this is really something to celebrate. And the wonderful collection of student athletes and student support staff here really show that this is something to celebrate. And so, yeah, we've kind of dressed it up a little bit more.
And it's a more public event now, right? Like, we get a lot of family, friends, guests come in for it.
Absolutely. We our staff, it seems like, has to notify the parents earlier and earlier so they can book travel. We have a lot of folks flying in from all over the country, some internationally. They can sometimes parlay it into a football weekend, either on the front or back end. But it's something I get a lot of questions from parents in the summer as to when the fall jacket or after the new year when the spring jacket ceremony will be.
Now, how is it decided who gets a monogram? How's the awarding done?
It starts with the head coach of each program. Each program has a predetermined set of criteria that kind of for each sport would indicate contributions at a certain level for that particular sport. But it's not just what you do competitively or on the field or in the pool or whatever it may be. There's an academic component and a campus community component as well. Those entities must sign off and approve that the recipient is in good standing in all instances. But we take a lot of pride in it starting with the head coach and designated monogram winners.
And given that discretion, are you eligible to win it at any time? Or do some people not win it until they're a senior and some get it after their freshman year?
Absolutely, and that speaks to kind of the remarkable paths. You might have a senior who finally qualifies through on-field criteria or whatever it may be to finally earn their first monogram, and then you have examples of Pat Connaughton's who goodness, probably earned about 7 monograms by the time he was done here. So that's what makes this special. Whether you earned 7 or 8 monograms or 1, you're part of the Monogram Club family for life.
What's the format of the evening?
So we'll have a nice reception here in a little bit. You'll probably see people starting to trickle in. We always want to have a nice dinner and food, especially for this family that travel a long way. The student athletes and first-time recipients will receive their jackets downstairs. Makes for some really neat opportunities for them to take pictures with their teammates and coaches. And then we'll have a nice a brief program. We don't want to belabor the point, but we also want to acknowledge the importance of this accomplishment. Yourself representing Notre Dame athletics and the university, sharing remarks remarks. We invite back a student-athlete alumni who's gone on in the spirit of the Monogram and in the spirit of Notre Dame to accomplish great things to share their remarks. And then we'll close it with a first-time recipient, a student-athlete that's receiving their Monogram for the first time, to share remarks from the perspective of a student-athlete. What I really enjoy is when we call each team up there by team, and there they are with their jackets. They're announced by their leaders or team captains on the team, joined by their coaches and administrators, and it's really just another form of celebration.
Yeah, it is a marvelous evening. It's gotten a little more polished and a little more special each year. And we've had some great, as you say, the featured speaker is always a former Monogram winner who comes back. We've had some really interesting and compelling speeches from those people over the years.
Sure, and as you can sure imagine, it's tough to pick just one or two, I should say, each year to come back for the fall and the spring. There's such a remarkable group of Monogram winners that have gone on and are continuing to accomplish things. And we're not just talking about within the realm of their respective sport or activity here, but in life, in their careers, or as representatives of their respective communities. And it's great to bring them back. They really enjoy the opportunity to be back on campus. And also, one of the first things they ask me is, man, they didn't have anything like this when I earned my Monogram jacket. So it's great to let them be a part of this celebration as well.
Yeah. And you don't do this just once a year, right? Do it twice.
Correct. So in the spring, we will, about mid-April or so, it's tough with schedules to find that ideal night, but we'll find that opportunity to recognize the fall sports Monogram winners.
So tonight is the spring sports.
Spring and winter, correct.
And it's a determination made, I take it, on last year's spring performance and competition.
Correct, from the competitive seasons in the 17 year.
That's great. When do you start to build the list? How do you collect them? Looking through the names that have to be read, it's a logistical challenge.
It is. We've like a lot of things here, moved online with our approval process, and we usually, as soon as the postseason or NCAA competition is completed for the spring sports, we ask for the head coaches to submit not only their first-time recipients, but all Monogram Award recipients that qualified that year. We run it through the process, and by mid to late summer, we have a good idea of the numbers of first-time recipients and additional Monogram Award recipients for the year.
This is one very visible thing that the Monogram Club does. Let's talk a little more broadly about the club. First of all, how it's governed, how it's constituted, and what its mission is.
Absolutely. The Monogram Club is the continuation of the Notre Dame experience, the Notre Dame student-athlete experience. As best personified, I think, in the tag, it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year lifetime decision. Our responsibility, our focus is delivering upon that lifetime decision and connection back to the university. We're comprised of a 20-person board, representative of all eras and sports of Notre Dame, and that board is a direct conduit to membership, and we want to make sure we are working collaboratively and with the athletics department and university to provide this resource, which is our greatest resource are our Monogram alum, and where and how they can help and support either ongoing initiatives within Notre Dame athletics or those initiatives designed to help our alumni and keeping them connected to the university.
Give us some examples of the sorts of initiatives that the club engages in.
Well, the Brendan Bolin Riley Scholarship Fund has been in place for over 40 years, and it allows to alleviate some of the financial aid need of sons and daughters of Monogram winners that attend Notre Dame. So that's really been something special and resonated across campus of a commitment to Notre Dame. We've worked closely with Student Welfare and Development in the Career Center as our student athletes and student support staff encounter the career discernment process, where our Monogram alum can serve as a resource in career guidance or input or internships or job shadowing opportunities. That's really been something that our Monogram club member participation has been high in, because you won't find a Notre Dame alum any walk that will not want to help, and they see the importance of being integral in that career discernment process. They understand the unique demands of our current student athletes, and maybe not always being able to participate in a traditional career discernment process. So we've had a lot of hand raisers and career advocates in those realms.
That's a great that's a great program. Is this common? Do all universities have a version of the Monogram Club?
A lot of universities do. It's kind of under the broad category of a Letter Winners Association. There is an annual conference each year that the attendees start to grow. It can be all over the spectrum. We're very fortunate, having just celebrated our 100-year anniversary industry and kind of with an eye towards the next 100 years to kind of be on the cutting edge and an industry leader. But we're able to come away with a lot of ideas. A lot of organizations are in their early infancy stages of implementing a connection to their monogram or to their letter winner associations or letter winner alum. And you'll find a real push right now to get away from just being a kind of a party or a hosting entity of athletics to something with purpose and wanting to deliver on that lifetime commitment to the respective university.
As reflected in your introduction, you have deep baseball roots, an accomplished baseball player who became a baseball administrator. I'm always fascinated when I'm around you and baseball is going on, the sort of depth of your connections because of the USA Baseball program. You seem to know guys on every team and have had relationships, played with some. That was true in the series this year, right?
Absolutely, and I always joke, but I've been very fortunate to have Notre Dame and USA across my chest in baseball, and just in those two worlds, you're going to cross paths with so many wonderful and beautiful people in baseball, and it's a great game. And it was tough for me to root for a certain team, and it's turned into that way because I end up rooting for the guys that I either played with, there are a few still kicking around, believe it or not, or guys that I was able to work with at USA Baseball in the junior national team, and none were on showcase better than Alex Bregman and what he did for that energized Astros crew. And I also we talked about this the other day. I admit we were part of a crew. I'll take ownership as the GM of the team in cutting Corey Seager. We did that. That happened.
But in fairness, you kept some really good guys.
Well, it was to keep Alex Bregman and Addison Russell, which that's Team USA problems to have. But no, it's been fun to watch those really young nucleus and core of Major League Baseball talent and stars on the highest level perform. And it's helped me become and maintain a fan of the game to see those guys have success.
You know, you're getting old enough that some of the guys are now managing, right? Or people you've crossed paths with along the way, or either administration or management or some other level of baseball.
Sure. Thanks for the reminder. But yes,
exactly. I wasn't going to let you get by with just the players.
I like to say I still played with Chase Utley, so he's still kicking around. I appreciate that. AJ Hinch and I were teammates in AAA Toledo, in 2003. And AJ and I, he being a Stanford guy, myself a Notre Dame guy, we're able to have some fun conversations, unique conversations. He was from day one that caliber of person and player that you knew one day would be a leader in the game, and as he's demonstrated not only as a manager and a World Series winning manager, but as a front office member as well too. So a lot of those guys are starting to make their way into the big leagues or front offices of clubs, and it's good to see them too.
Did you have the coaching itch?
You know, I did. My first job out of playing was as at a coach at a university north of here. I won't say the name, but I enjoyed it, and it was great because it was easy to me. It was easy to impart knowledge. It was easy to get to know the guys and help them, and it was inspiring to see their passion and motivation to be great. But it's also what got me into this path. A lot of the day, I was the low-level volunteer assistant, so I had all types of responsibilities, and I got to know all different entities of the athletics department, and I really enjoyed that. I really liked being able to put together and work with the program and enhance the student-athlete experience, and so I put the fungo away and put the suit and tie on, and here we are.
Well, you know, today's show sort of is 2 degrees of separation from baseball and almost everything we're doing in this show with our guests, but also with the location, right? We're Club Nemoli, and that has a baseball connection.
Sure, Vince Nemoli, the longtime owner of the Rays, and it's always neat. I kid with my staff that there's baseball connections in everything we do here in sports and athletics, and with the University of Notre Dame, and being back in this position, working with the Monogram Club and getting to know our alum and seeing what they accomplish beyond Notre Dame is outstanding. And there's not a greater example of that than Mr. Nemoli. Yeah,
and his commitment to and his support of Notre Dame athletics has been a great asset for this program, and this space highlights that. Brant, thanks so much for being with us. Always love having you on as a guest, and good luck this evening.
Thanks, Jack. Great to be here.
We'll be back in a minute.
We represent the greatest university in the world. Let's carry that pride tonight onto this field, and let's play for Notre Dame, and let's play for Our Lady. That's how we're playing today. I don't know what next week holds, or the week after, or 3 weeks down the road, but tonight, that's how we're playing this football game.
It's caught beautifully. What a play. Touchdown, Notre Dame. The Irish find a way.
Our next guest is one of the rising stars in college athletics administration. Alan Greene holds a bachelor's degree in finance from Notre Dame and a master's degree in liberal studies from Indiana University. He was a 3-year starter in the outfield for Notre Dame's baseball team before signing with the Yankees and playing in their minor league system from 1998 to 2001. After baseball, Greene worked in the athletic development and compliance offices here at Notre Dame before moving on to a number of positions at the University of Mississippi. Greene then moved on to the University of Buffalo as deputy athletic director before being named one of the youngest NCAA FBS directors of athletics in the country in November of 2015. We are looking forward to talking to Alan about his memories of Notre Dame and the tremendous success Buffalo athletics has already had under his leadership, both on and off the field.
Thanks, Jack. Welcome back. You can probably tell from the background noise that we're getting a little closer to showtime here at the Monogram Awards ceremony here at Club Nemoli and Purcell Pavilion as the award winners and their guests start to file in and find the food and the drink. So hopefully the background noise isn't too much interference, but it sort of adds to the dynamism of the evening, and nothing adds to that more than having a former award winner come back and speak to our student athletes. Alan Greene, thanks for doing that.
My pleasure, Jack. Thanks for having me.
Seemed like yesterday you were getting one of these things?
Part of it seems like yesterday, and part of it seems like 20 years ago.
Now, how did you get your letter jacket back then?
You got to well, I don't know if email existed back then. I don't think it did. I think Coach told you got a letter winner's jacket and go down to the equipment room and pick it up. And I remember walking through the joist and knocking on the shed, and Kathy Spybrook would roll it up and say, "Here's your jacket." I'm like, "Great, thank you. This is cool."
You like this format better, maybe?
I like it already. The fact that there's food here, that's even better. Absolutely.
I indicated earlier, all roads sort of connect to baseball here. That was your sport at Notre Dame,
it was.
Correct?
I was a baseball player. In fact, I'm a year ahead of Brant, and I hosted him on his recruiting trip.
Wow.
Yeah, and he still came.
And you were a Yankees pick, is that right?
I was, yeah. So I was fortunate enough to get drafted in the 9th round by the New York Yankees and played 3 years in minor league baseball. Time of my life, great experience. But it's funny, you still yearn for your college teammates and that experience and that camaraderie. So that's part of what continues to bring me back to this day.
Now, I assume there's some Yankees I must know that you crossed paths with in the minor league journey. Is that right?
Probably so, Jack, but my memory starts to fade. I don't know how yours can be so sharp.
It's not, believe me. It's really not. So, pro athlete, and then you come back into administration, college athletics. Why college athletics?
Wow. Well, it kind of found me. I tell the story about how I got into this industry, and while I was done playing pro ball, I would always drive past the baseball field on my way home from work, and I worked here in South Bend. And I'd always just stop off and just say hi to the guys, say hi to the coaches, and just kind of relive the glory days. And one day, there were 2 men in suits standing along the third base sideline. One of them is Bernard Muir, who's the AD at Stanford, and the other, Bill Scholl, the AD at Marquette. And I kind of inquisitively asked, which I'm not very much usually, I said, "Well, why are you guys here?" He said, "Oh, well, we're supporting the baseball program." And I said, "So you get paid to watch baseball?" I said, "I've been doing it for free all these years." But really what it comes down to is understanding and me having a great appreciation of what Notre Dame has done for me. And this is a small opportunity for me to be able to provide opportunities for young people and give back and just have them enjoy the experience of intercollegiate athletics.
So take us through your path to your current job. So you first start here.
Well, even before I started here, Jack, I got passed over twice by Sandy Barber, who is now at Penn State. And finally, I convinced someone to hire me, so I worked in compliance here at Notre Dame for 5 years. I then made the kind of unique move into development. So I went from compliance to fundraising, and did fundraising here for 2 years under Sarah Leapshire, who's been doing a fantastic job here. I got kicked out. I apparently wasn't very good, so I got kicked out and had a great opportunity to work with Danny White at Ole Miss, continuing to do fundraising. I spent 3 years in Oxford, Mississippi, which was a phenomenal experience in so many different ways. Then I tried to really figure out what I wanted to do with myself. Did I want to be an athletic director, or was I happy just being a senior level administrator? And when Danny took the job at University of Buffalo, he brought me along to run the internal operations of the department. And that was a great experience because it gave me a holistic approach of intercollegiate athletics and how to run the enterprise of intercollegiate athletics. And I was able to force Danny out down to UCF, and I was fortunate enough then to be tapped on the shoulder to lead the Bulls, and I have been doing so for the past 2 years.
Well, it's a great and very successful journey. You describe it very modestly, but you've been a star on the rise in the industry for some time now, and you're having a lot of success at Buffalo. Tell me, what are the key challenges at a Buffalo versus an Ole Miss versus a Notre Dame?
Sure. For us, it's resources. Everything comes down to resources. All of our decision making is impacted by our ability to generate revenue to support our student athletes. And I think one of the things that's similar between what your job is and what my job is we want to provide an outstanding experience, a championship and a positive experience for every single one of our student athletes. We don't want the football player to have a different experience than the women's golfer. And that's for us, that's a challenge. So we spend a lot of our time trying to figure out how can we do what Notre Dame does just on a lesser budget. So champagne taste on a beer budget.
How many sports do you have?
We have 16, and we went through a very, very difficult process last year on discontinuing sports in order to, again, to put us in position to sustain a positive and championship experience. And that was, wow, that had a tremendous impact on how I view really at the core of what it is that we do. You know, I've always talked about and have experienced a tremendous experience as a student athlete, but also you have to be disciplined not to get overcrowded by the desire to win championships and to be competitive on the field. And it's not a win at all costs. And so that's one thing that we had to learn, is that we had to make some very difficult decisions in order for us to be able to continue to provide the support to the level that we think is appropriate.
The resource models in college athletics continue to get greater and greater diversity, right?
Yes.
I mean, you've got at the top end, you've got schools approaching $200 million now, and at the lower end, probably in the 30s.
Yeah,
less.
Yeah. Ours is about 30.
Yeah. What's the future? How does this work? What are some of the solutions that
Jack,
you'd like to see?
You ask such great questions. I don't know that we have the answer for that. I think we can come up with some ideas, but I don't know that it's going to continue. It's going to directly address some of our challenges and our issues. I think one of the common misnomers is people think that just because you're in an autonomous group, a group of a Power Five, is that everyone's on an equal playing field. Yeah. It's not the case, right? No. And we learned that at Ole Miss, where we had the third to lowest budget in the SEC at $70 million or so, and we were competing with Alabama at the time, was roughly $110 million, and they offered a fewer number of student athletes or sports than we did. So the challenge is, how do we continue to generate revenue to be able to provide for our student athletes without giving up on the enterprise? And those are all questions that smart people like you, I think, can help answer.
Well, it's a challenge. There's no question. I mean, I think not only economically do the models diverge, but sort of culturally they increasingly diverge. Right. And you got to hope we can find a way where it still makes sense to hold the association together.
Absolutely. I think it's critical. And again, I think one of the challenges that we face from a national perspective, Jack, is that the limelight shines really bright on those autonomous schools, those Power Five schools, and sometimes the group of five schools and those non-autonomous get lumped in. And I think when we discuss the the public perception of intercollegiate athletics these days, it tends to shine in that top 1%, and that's not the case. You know, most of us, and if not all of us, at the core of what it is that we do, want to provide a great experience for our student athletes. Some are able to provide a little bit of a shinier experience for people, but at the end of the day, it's how do we get young people to have a phenomenal experience and prepare them to be successful in life.
Yeah, and the other thing that, of course, colors perceptions is our ability to generate negative news on a pretty regular basis. This year it's been the scandal surrounding men's basketball.
Sure.
What are your observations and thoughts about what's going on there?
Well, as a baseball player, I don't have a ton of experience on the basketball side, but as an athletic director and as an administrator and someone who's overseen basketball and someone who sat with young recruits across my office, it goes back to how can we best prepare you for the future. And when we think about some of the experiences that our young basketball players, male basketball players in particular, some of the experiences that they're having in high school tend to shed a slanted view and a light on what it is that intercollegiate athletics is about. So again, I think it's just about us trying to continue to keep the enterprise of intercollegiate athletics and the amateurism intact, while also understanding that it's a phenomenal opportunity for certain programs to be able to shine such a bright light on their university.
Yeah, I think you really hit on a very important element of this here. I mean, we have our problems without doubt as college athletics, and we've had some people engage in what appears to be very bad behavior.
Sure.
But we also have to address the youth sport dynamic because it is so impacting the college experience. I mean, it's early recruiting.
Yes.
It's one sport kids.
Yes.
It's all of the things that sort of downstream come in and impact our business.
Sure.
Do you see that in what you're dealing with?
I see it not only from the professional level, but I see it as a parent, as a father. I've got 3 young children, and my son, who's 10, loves sports, and he's playing travel hockey and travel baseball, and I can't tell people how much I hate it. I do. I hate it.
Yeah.
But we want him to play competitive sports. We want him to play multiple sports, and it's a very challenging dynamic for my wife in particular to have to chauffeur my son around and his sisters to all these different events. And what that does is it leads people to down an avenue in which you're solely focused on one thing. And as we've talked about, diversity is one of the most core things to what it is that we can do, not only in terms of people who we employ, but also the experiences of young people. And if you don't have diverse experiences, then it makes it more challenging for people to be successful.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but how do you guide the decisions of your children in this atmosphere? Because on one side, some hockey coach or some baseball coach is saying, "Hey, you got to focus here. You got to do this year round."
That's a tough one. My wife and I have lots of conversations about what's at core to us.
Right.
And at core to us will be our children having lots of different experiences. Our kids play piano, and they kick and scream every time that there's a piano lesson, but they're going to play piano. It is what it is. And we try to introduce them. So whether it's organized sports or organized arts experiences, we try to sprinkle in some things that we know are going to be good for them, but they also will see as fun. Right now, piano's not one of them.
Well, see, I although I had four children, I didn't have near your challenge because they had my gene pool instead of yours. So it was completely different.
One of the other things, Jack, one of the other things that we've done is we picked up skiing.
Really?
Yeah, so imagine us on a ski slope. It's rather interesting and entertaining. But we learned to ski last year, and so we try to just do things and have experiences that are outside of what I would call the norm. And knowing how hard it is to try to peel away a Saturday or Sunday morning or afternoon to go spend a few hours on the ski slopes.
Yeah, one of the great things about that sport is it can be a family activity.
It definitely
can.
You
may be going down different hills, but you wind up at the same bottom of the mountain at the end of the runs.
Absolutely.
We're so lucky to have you come in and speak to our students here this evening who are receiving monograms. I don't want you to give your whole talk away, but what are you going to focus on in your remarks to the students?
Probably more of the same. it's more of the same. And these young people, when they were recruited, I'm sure heard the same thing that I heard. And as much as the landscape and the dynamics have changed, not only at this university but in intercollegiate athletics, there's a core principle to the University of Notre Dame that stays true, and that is an outstanding education, an opportunity to compete at the highest level, to develop yourself spiritually, and to give back to the community. And I think those tenets, I'll echo them. I'm sure you'll echo them. And it's who Notre Dame is, and that's very special. It's very special to be a part of that group.
Well, you make it more special. We're so proud of what you're accomplishing.
Thank you, Jack.
We'll be tracking your future successes with great interest, and thanks for being here tonight.
My pleasure. Appreciate it. Go Irish.
Go Irish. We'll be back in a minute.
We expect a great one tonight.
This crowd is electrified.
Strong drive and one. He'll be at the line. Have not been able to stop the drive.
Farrell bounces it in the lane to Rex Luger. The two-handed jam.
Oh, Colson. Are you serious, Bonzi? Bonzi, are you serious? They love him at the Golden Dome.
Welcome back to the Jack Swarbrick Show. Our next guest is sophomore Notre Dame hockey forward Mike O'Leary. O'Leary has played in 47 games for the Irish during his Notre Dame career, scoring 2 goals and dishing out 3 assists. Mike also helped Dubuque of the United States Hockey League reach the 2016 Clark Cub Championship with 8 goals and 19 assists in 59 regular season games, and then added 4 goals and 3 assists in 12 playoff games. O'Leary also played for Team Canada White at the World Under-17 Hockey Challenge. This week, he has the honor of giving the athlete speech at the Monogram Club Fall Jacket Ceremony, and before that big moment, carved out some time to visit us here on the Jack Swarbrick Show.
Thanks, Jack. Welcome back. Mike's great to have you with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You have a speaking role this evening. How did that come about?
I did the Rosenthal Leadership Committee in the summertime, and honestly, I guess I must have stood out there because I got a text during the week asking if I'd do it, and at first I was unsure if I wanted to, honestly, because I didn't really know what the role consumed of, but after finding out a little bit about it from Matt Weldy, I felt up to it and thought it'd be a nice thing to do.
Oh, that's great. You nervous?
Honestly, my teammates keep asking me the same question. I'm not too nervous, but I'm sure once I get up there, there'll be a little bit of jitters.
It's not too bad. It's a friendly audience.
Yeah.
Halifax. How did you come from Halifax to Notre Dame? What's the route?
Yeah, it was a long route, actually. When I was in the 10th grade, I moved away to Salisbury, Connecticut, a prep school in Connecticut. It was an all-boys prep school of about 300, and I did the 10th and 11th grade there. I actually moved to Dubuque, Iowa, to play junior hockey for the Dubuque Fighting Saints, where I did my senior year of high school and public high school there. I lived with the Billet family. So basically just a family in the community who agrees to house players. And then from there, I found myself at Notre Dame.
Those can't be easy choices to decide to go to Connecticut and then Dubuque. What was the experience like?
To be honest with you, when I first moved away, there was some hesitation. I knew when my mom left for the first time, it was going to be a little hard for me, trying to figure out doing my own laundry and not having parents to rely and lean on. So that was a little bit of a growing up experience for me. But honestly, I wouldn't trade it for the world. My time, especially at Salisbury, you get really close with your classmates, with your team, and I loved it there. I loved every minute of it there. And then when I had the opportunity to go to Dubuque to play my junior hockey, I have nothing but good things to say there as well. It was really the time of my life. So.
And versions of that story are not unusual for hockey players, right? It's
not at all.
No one comes out of high school pretty much and goes and plays college hockey, right? There's always some junior hockey or something else along the way.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, I was able to come right out of high school. I did my senior year of high school, and then the coaching staff felt like I was ready to come in, so I was fortunate that way. But honestly, I wouldn't have minded at all if I did another year of junior where I just took a class or two and played hockey.
Right.
Some of the guys I talked to talk about how that's some of the most fun times of their lives, just getting to be around the guys and just focus on hockey.
Well, season's underway here, and you're coming off a great weekend. Your first Big Ten weekend,
Yep.
And couldn't have gone any better. What are your impressions playing in the Big Ten as a conference this year?
Going into Ohio State, I didn't really know what to expect. We knew the Big Ten wasn't going to be friendly to us. We knew they weren't going to like us, but we kind of had the same attitude towards them. Like, we're there to win, and that's what we expect. So going into Ohio State, obviously we wanted to kind of set the tone for the year and show the teams in the Big Ten that we're here to win, and we did that. We came out with 2 big wins, and that was honestly 2 big wins to kind of set the tone for our whole season.
Coach Jackson mentioned, and I got a sense of it listening to both games on the radio, but he mentioned how pleased he was with the defensive play. He got 2 good games from your goalie, of course, but the entire defensive effort of the team seemed to be pretty strong.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Cale Morris. He's my roommate. He's worked super hard to be in the spot that he's in today, and I'm really happy that it's paying off for him. He's a big reason why we won the 2 games on the weekend. But with that being said, like you said, it was a team effort. Like, guys were sacrificing their bodies to block shots to win, and it really is a team effort at the end of the day if you want to get those kind of wins against these high-caliber teams.
Now, it only gets tougher this weekend. You got a very talented Penn State team coming in. They're at least statistically, they look like they're a very offensive-oriented team.
Yeah, we actually found out earlier today. Our coach told us they average over 50 shots a game, so that's something we've never seen before. So that'll be definitely a challenge defensively to try to contain that offense. But we feel we're up to the challenge. We think we have the pieces to have a really successful year.
How would you characterize the personality of this year's team? Every team's a little different, and I know it emerges during the course of a season.
Yeah.
But what does it feel like this year?
Obviously, with losing guys like Anders Bjork and Cal Peterson of their high quality on the ice, but also like their personalities off the ice, like there were leadership roles that obviously are now being taken on by other guys, and other guys are stepping up. But I think our team this year is like we're all workers. We're all going to put in the effort. We're all going to sacrifice each other. We're all kind of on that same playing field where if we want to win, it's going to be a team effort. It's not going to be one guy going through everyone by themselves. Everyone's going to have to pitch in at some point and carry their own weight.
You're obviously coming off a very successful year for the team. What's the impact of that? I mean, I know you try and flush it every year as a new year, but also your opponents are focused on you coming in as a Frozen Four team.
Yeah, well, we know whoever we play, we're getting their best game. It's that simple. When you have a team that's been to the Frozen Four the year before, like you know when they're coming to their building and you know when you're going to their building. So we understand that every team, we're going to get their best effort, and that's on us to match it. Yes, we lost a couple guys, but we returned quite a few guys, and the freshmen that we brought in are really good hockey players too. So we have the same expectations for ourselves no matter who came or who left. We expect to get back there, and that's our goal, obviously, for this year.
You played last week in a pretty big barn, a big venue, which sometimes can lack a little atmosphere. Home's a little different here, right? What's your view of Compton and your impressions of it as a home ice?
Yeah, personally, I love playing at home, just the routines and kind of knowing what you're going to get every night. I think with going to some of these like bigger schools, not really having the crowds. When we play at home, we know and we expect to have that crowd on our side. We know momentum's a factor, and especially getting the crowd on our side early, like having some sort of energy generated to really get them into the game. Because when they're in the game, they do play a huge factor.
Yeah, and I just love the environment in there.
Yeah.
It's a nice loud facility, and when we get 5,200 people in there, the place really rocks.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you. When it's going, it's really going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on a great start to the season, and good luck this weekend. But thanks especially for playing this role here tonight. It's really important. It's an important part of the program, and we thank you for doing it.
Yeah, of course, anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be back in a minute.
Well, this has been a very enlightening show, and get the real show underway behind us in just a second. But a lot of excitement here. There's also a lot of excitement on this campus, as there always is. Two programs that do get a lot of attention that we haven't talked about yet tonight are two soccer programs that are again excelling.
Yeah, it's that time of year. The women once again qualified for the NCAA tournament. Thrilled about that. You know, in soccer, if you get in the tournament, you got a shot because it's such a sport of crazy bounces and critical calls. So they start their NCAA journey by hosting a first-round match, which we're thrilled about. If they win that, they'll likely face a number 2 seed, and that'll be a big challenge, but I'm sure they're up to it. And the men are in the ACC tournament, and as we're taping this show, have made it to the semifinals. I hope when our listeners are hearing this, they're in the finals. They've got the seventh rated RPI in the country. I'm confident they'll have a strong seed going into the NCAA tournament.
I want to wrap up with this. You worked very hard on the current playoff system, not only getting Notre Dame included in it, but making sure Notre Dame had the potential to be in it. 2 shows have gone by, committee shows. Notre Dame's been third in both. It's answered a lot of questions, and it's proven that Notre Dame still has a place at the table and can set themselves up so that they can have one every year.
Yeah, it's really important to keep in mind that the charge to the committee is to find the 4 best teams. Everybody wants to go to the other factors, right? The charge is find the 4 best teams. The rules, the guidelines are drafted so that they say only in those circumstances where teams are otherwise equal do you then go to a series of the criteria. We score very well on those criteria. Head-to-head, strength of schedule. We won't have a conference championship, but on the other criteria we do. There's a lot of talk about the 13th data point, right? Well, you find those data points by comparing your best game to your second best game to your third best game. That 13th data point for most teams is an FCS game. It's not the conference championship. And so I feel very good about how we're positioned. We got to win 3 football games. Effectively, we're in the playoffs now. You got to approach every game as a playoff game. And
you've been in the playoffs since the Georgia game, as Coach Kelly's pointed out, and he's right.
We have been, although we're really in the playoffs now.
All right, Jack, it's always a pleasure. It's going to be a great night here. Hope you've learned a little bit about the Monogram Jacket ceremony and just the kind of people who are involved in this. And 2 great representatives of this athletic department who have gone on. One is here, one's at Buffalo, to do great things professionally in athletics.
Well, that's the neat thing about tonight is you're sitting there and you watch these talented young men and women come up and get their letter jackets to contemplate the impact they're all going to have in the future somewhere. And we see that with the people we bring back to speak, but it's going to be true of this crowd in the future, and I can't wait to see what they go on to do.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. Go Irish.